Hi everyone, I want to go over your final presentation project for the end of the semester. And so this is going to be probably 10 to 15 minutes long. Feel free to listen to it in pieces. I'm in Unit 4 and I'm in teacher mode. So for example, this is hidden from students, so you will not see this initially. You'll see it later in the semester. So let's look at the final project. So here are the guidelines of the project. This project, remember, cannot be a written paper. It can be anything except a paper. And so what you're going to do is you're going to create a project, which we'll talk about the different genre or format, but you also are going to have to, you're going to submit two things in Blackboard. The first one is a brief paper with your reference list. Remember, I use APA. If you're using a different format, you need to let me know at the top of your reference list. And the second item you put in is your artifact. So let's look at this first item that's a short paper. This requires no research. The purpose of this short paper is to let your peers know what it is you did and why you did it. So this is only going to be 1/2 page to 1.5 pages double spaced. It's very short. The first thing you're going to write about, this will be 1 to 2 paragraphs long, and you're going to tell us the group you chose to address, and then explain why you made the choices you made in history, policy, and SDOH. Then the supporting information, this will be a couple paragraphs as well, somewhere between 1 and 3 at the most. I'm thinking 1 to 2 is more than enough. You're going to explain why you chose the project. Very important to read this right here. Remember, whatever you write in this paper, your peers are going to read. So if you don't want them to know something about you, then don't say it. So for example, the example I have here, it says, if you chose to do rape because you're a survivor of rape and you don't want to share that with your peers in the class, then you would simply say that you know someone who survived rape. That's still true, but it's not giving it personal information. If you don't mind if people know your personal information and you chose it for something about yourself, that's fine. But I just want to remind you of that. This is what you have to include in this section of the paper: why you chose it, what you hope to gain, why the group, why the genre or format, and did you gain what you wanted? And in hindsight, would you choose a different topic or a different format? So this paper has no right or wrong answers. It just gives you an opportunity to share with your peers what you did and why you did it. That will be really important when they're looking at your project. The next thing is a reference list. You're to use APA format. If you don't use APA, then you need to tell me what you're using so I can score it accordingly. I can't imagine you'd have more than 10 items on your reference list. If you do, that's fine, but I'm thinking 5 to 10 items is what's going to be on your reference list. In reality, you might only have 3, depending on what the references are. So that's the short paper that's 1/2 to 1.5 pages, and then the reference list is not counted in those pages. Next, the other thing you're going to turn in is the artifact. This is the actual project that you did. No matter what project you choose, you must describe the disease and condition following these guidelines. You must address historical, legal, and policy. And you must address 3 of the 5 SDOH, social determinants of health. These will be the first 2, the disease, condition, historical, legal, policy, are going to vary slightly for diseases. The one that varies the most is the second one, which is historical, legal, and policy issues, because they're different. If you're doing mental health, the amount of historical or policy that's in there will be different than if you're doing abortion or you're doing contraception. So you have to keep in mind there's not a strict idea of what is in there. It's just going to vary based on your topic and what you did. So here are some genre or formats. They're listed alphabetically. Remember, there are no written papers that cover this information. If what you choose to do is not on this list, I will add it. But as of right now, these are some ideas. You have a letter to a politician or editor. You have a plan of attack. This is the most difficult one for people to understand. A plan of attack is, what do you plan to do about this issue in the next year or two? And you would actually outline, in June of 2022, I'm going to do this. And in July, I'm going to do this. And in September, I'm going to do this. And you have to cover all of the different parts of the project. So that's a little difficult. Sometimes people have done podcasts, and if you do a podcast, it should be about 10 minutes long. That you could do print media, and there's all kind of print media you can choose. There's brochures, there's flyers, there's public service announcements that are print, like the kind of things you see on buses or in buses. There are infographics. That's not on this list. So anything that's print media could be here. And I'm going to talk about some other media that's online in a little bit. If you do print media, I'd like you to review the CRAP design principles, which are actual design principles, and there's a link here for you to get to them, just to consider them as you're designing your paper, your project. Another thing you could do is slides and presentation. And if you're doing slides or presentation, a slide presentation, you have to make sure your slide presentation is to your audience, not to us about your audience. So for example, if you were to choose rural Hispanic women, then the presentation would be to them, and you would be telling them what they need to know about all those different areas. It would not be to us about them. And so that's a key point. More so in slide presentations than any other place, people lose points because they do not follow that piece of direction. The next item here is social media. In social media, you could create a web page, or you could use social media platforms like Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, or any other social media platform. You have to actually design whatever it is you're doing, and you have to give us a link so we can see it. So related to social media are print or pop-up print ads or pop-up audiovisual ads that appear in social media. So as you're on social media, you should see ads pop up routinely. Or if you're online and you're reading an article, a lot of times ads pop up. So you could do pop-up ads for your topic and for your population. They could be just print ads, which are words, or they could be audiovisual ads, or there could be a combination of each. But each ad is only about 10 seconds long. And so that's another option you have. Really important at the bottom, if you have questions, ask. If you have an idea to do something that is not on this list, make sure you check because it might fit the criteria. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at your self and peer scoring tool. So I'm asking you to score yourself before you submit this in hopes that it makes you get a really good grade. I want you to ask yourself these questions and answer honestly before you submit. Did you follow the directions? Do you have that short paper that's 1 to 3 paragraphs? Did you include 1 to 2 paragraphs that reflect on what you did, why you did it, etc.? In your short paper, did you use APA or another style correctly with fewer than 3 errors? And that'll be on your reference list. Then for your artifact, did you include did you identify the parts in 1 and 2, which is history, legal, policy, epidemiology, etc.? Did you include the appropriate information for your audience and your genre? Again, it's going to be different for each of you because it depends on what you're doing. Then did you cover fully 3 of the 5 SDOH? Do you have reliable sources, and have you checked your spelling and grammar and have fewer than 2 errors? I expect you to actually do those things and score yourself. For example, if you don't check your spelling, don't lie about it, just say no, because if you say you checked your spelling and there's 20 errors in your document, you're going to lose points because what did you check? And remember, we have a writing center that can help you. So that's your self-scoring tool. You will get 5 points, up to 5 points for scoring yourself. Then you're going to score each person in your group, and there should be enough scoring tools here for everybody in your group. There's 9 forms here, so that should be enough. you're going to put your name, the name of the person you're scoring, their topic, their format, their genre, and then you're going to fill out a similar document that you just filled out for yourself. What I do is I take from here down and I copy and paste all of those items together for that person, and the person gets your peer scoring tools. Your name will be removed from what I share with each other. A very important item, it says here, make sure you have comments in at least 3 of these rows for each person. Make sure they're unique to the person and they're thoughtful. If you don't do this well, you lose points on your score. So that's yourself and peer. I take the average of all the peers. You get up to 5 points from your peers, up to 5 points from yourself. And there's only one more thing to look at, and that is this teacher scoring tool. And I just want to take a couple minutes to look at this with you so that you can see that I'm going to grade this exactly from here. This is what I'm going to grade on, so make sure you follow the scoring tool. First, did you follow the directions in content, length, format, genre? Did you include 1 to 3 paragraphs in that paper? Then did you include up to 2 paragraphs about why you chose the topic? And then that's that short paper. Then, is the content accurate for history, policy, law, etc., and covers everything you should have covered for your condition or disease? Again, that's different for each of you. Did you cover 3 of the SDOH fully? Each SDOH is worth 5 points. If you do 5 SDOH, I'm grading the first 3. And you'll lose points on lack of accuracy and omission for each one. Then, did the artifact do what it should have done for the audience chosen in the topic and genre? And that you could actually lose 5 points just because you gave us a slide presentation to us instead of a slide presentation to your audience. Spelling and grammar, are over 80% of your sources strong and reliable? And then APA or whatever other style you use. So make sure as you're doing your project, make sure you follow the directions carefully, because those directions will actually help you get a very good grade. You will submit yourself and peer evaluations here, and that's it. So hopefully you enjoy this project. Students usually really enjoy doing this project versus writing a paper. If you have any questions, make sure you ask. And I really look forward every semester to looking at your projects.